Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning.
Hi.
Good morning. Welcome to the Rebel News live stream.
Woo-hoo.
I am your host it doesn't matter. I am Matt. Welcome. Good morning from British Columbia. Nat, good to see you.
Good to see you. I am live in studio at Rebel HQ.
Amazing. Are you at Sheila Gunn Reid's studio?
Yes.
That backdrop looks familiar. Wow. Technology, folks.
I'm just trying to channel Sheila because she is like amazing. Without a
Bass
doubt.
boss number one. Yeah,
Number
definitely.
one. Yes.
So we have quite an interesting show for you folks today. I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to speculation in the Twitter sphere, but it seems like there may be some restrictions coming again to Canada just in time for Christmas again. The longest 2 weeks in Canadian history.
Yeah.
So we'll be delving into that. We've got, what else do we have here? We have some hygiene from fast food employees. We've got some parody for you guys. It should be a really good show, and I'm excited to share this with you, Nat. We got the chance to meet each other briefly at the Rebel Christmas party, and I was very encouraged by our conversation. So when I found out this morning that we were going to be doing this together, I'm super hyped. So
oh, definitely. And it can't be bad because there is a vegan bag line called Matt and Nat. So I feel like this is just like destined to be amazing. Who knows?
maybe they should hook us up with some free merch for
please.
for the plug. Yeah, please do. All right, so producer AD, I'm not hearing you in the ear, but
I'll just let you all know that in a bit we will be transitioning off of YouTube. As you know, we have a beautiful history with them, so definitely stick around and make sure you move over to wherever you view your live streams: Rumble, Odyssey, and Super U. Yes.
yeah, and it seems as each week passes, or even as every day passes, there's less time that we can actually spend on YouTube. So really consider this more of the waiting room rather than the show itself.
Heck yeah,
but there are the pre-show. We're the pre-show. So I think we can get into this first video. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah.
All right, let's show this.
Oh my.
Wow.
Oh, well, that's not food safe, but at least she's wearing her mask, hey?
Yeah, and hairnet.
Yeah. Well, that's good that she seems like she's concerned about some, safety measures. So that's really fruitful. But like honestly, I'm not a big Tim Hortons fan. I would never go to them for a cinnamon bun, but this really makes me never want to try one from them. Like that's, I don't know. Hopefully she washed her hands.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta hope so. That's concerning. I have a feeling that sort of stuff happens a lot more often than we'd like to think about.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I do kind of feel a little bit bad for her that she's now been exposed. Like, I would not want to be her. Like, I would.
No. I wonder, was there any, was she able to keep her job? Was there, or is she just being publicly shamed? What's the article saying here? When I first asked her about it, she said it was normal, and she said she always does it like that.
Wow.
As I told BlogTO this week, like, what do you mean? That's not in the employee handbook? That's not how you're supposed to do it?
Maybe it is. I don't know. At least she's consistent. Like, she always does it like that. You got to respect the consistency.
Really putting her blood, sweat, and tears into her work.
Literally the sweat, yeah. Wow.
She then walked away when I told her there were other ways to spread the frosting, like using a disposable knife. Upon reviewing the video, a spokesperson for Tim Hortons tells BlogTO that the icing application method was not, in fact, normal. The procedure in the wow. Well, thanks for clearing that up, guys. I really appreciate it.
Maybe she's like an environmentalist and she just doesn't want to use plastic. So maybe like Justin Trudeau will give her like a handshake or something with icing on it,
maybe we should champion her, it's part of that Build Back Better policy, environmental friendly.
Amen.
Yikes, that's extremely concerning.
Yes, it is. Cook at home,
right.
folks.
What do we got next here? Trudeau talking about decriminalization. Now, I didn't realize this until the pre-chat huddle that you're actually from BC.
Yes, I'm from Abbotsford. Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been living in Ontario for?
Yeah, I've been here for like, I think 6 years, but since the onset of the pandemic, I have no like idea how to gauge time at all. So I think 5 years, I think.
Yeah. Okay. It's all been one long kind of year or week or whatever.
2 weeks, but yeah.
So anybody who's from British Columbia knows that, well, obviously the opioid crisis is the opioid crisis coupled with inaffordability is the true, struggle in BC. And the downtown east side is kind of like the drunk uncle that just comes out at Thanksgiving and we try to like shun in the alley and no one likes to talk about, or we put him up in the attic. But whenever someone comes to visit Vancouver, it's like, oh my goodness, like it's really world class. And for those of you who have not visited Vancouver, we're talking like a multi-kilometer stretch of just thousands of homeless folks that are struggling to get by. All sorts of prostitution, violence, drug dealing, and it's because of the climate. It seems that we attract in BC all of the like-minded individuals to BC because you can afford you can stay out there year round and you don't freeze like you would if you're in Alberta or somewhere else. So
yeah, and people like from what I've heard from my parents, it's just completely exploded in the last couple years and it's just so devastating because people are just completely sedated. Like I find Ontario, like the homeless population, they're quite aggressive and they have like this like energy and almost entitlement like when they speak to you and stuff, but in Vancouver it just seems like these people are just not there. They're not present really, and it's so sad.
Yeah, they're pretty harmless. Like well, I don't mean to generalize, but I've never really felt in danger.
Yeah.
In the downtown east side, it's a lot of just displaced folks.
Yeah.
But it's true. I've noticed personally in the last, and obviously this is anecdotal, but I've noticed in the last couple of years, it seems to be a lot worse. Like it seems like the population in the area has grown quite a bit. Some people speculate that that's because of CERB, that obviously access to free money to buy free drugs, but also because the borders have been closed or were closed for so long, there's been a bunch of dirty drugs, like a lot of fentanyl-laced drugs on the street, which is leading to overdoses, etc. Which I guess leads into this initiative now, which it's been around for a long time, but the initiative to decriminalize drugs, hard drugs, and I guess Trudeau is opening his mind to that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I just think it speaks to the fact that our Liberal government never wants to get to like the root of an issue. It's always these Band-Aid solutions that really do nothing but give them more access to voters, I guess. Like, I don't really know who they're trying to appease by doing this. Like, we know, like, it's pretty black and white to me. Drugs are bad. They've ruined lives. Throughout the pandemic, it's exploded even more, So I don't really get what the goal is other than like this resulting in more deaths than we've even seen throughout the pandemic. I don't know. What do you think?
It's interesting. I think if they can, it's almost become such a bad issue that there isn't really like a clean fix. It's obviously nuanced because it's tied into depression issues, anxiety, schizophrenia, homelessness, poverty. So I guess the thinking on the more liberal side of the argument is, well, at least if we can give these people drugs who are going to be taking drugs anyways, we can guarantee that they're clean. So, and that, argument, okay, well, maybe we can get some fentanyl off the street. But then again, it's also like taking the neon sign that is the come to Vancouver and get high thing that flags nationwide. It's just cranking it up a few amps and making it brighter for the rest of the world to see too. So where's the line, and what kind of social programs can we actually implement to hopefully start to curb not illicit drug use singly, but addiction?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, they've already kind of been testing this out in various ways, like with the safe injection sites. We know those haven't actually been at all fruitful either, because you can go to these injection sites and shoot up or whatever, and then like leave and go die in an alleyway somewhere. So we need to kind of follow through on these types of, maybe, I guess, laws, and make sure that we're actually focusing on what happens after these people take these drugs.
Right. So what's this article saying here from City News? Let's see what our friends in the mainstream media are reporting on this. Probably far more nuanced than they will admit. Article. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he is looking at the issue of decriminalizing hard drugs with the provinces and is open to further action, a departure from his previous resistance to the idea. City News, along with our colleagues from Breakfast Television and Omni News, the trio out here, got the chance to sit down with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and look back at some of the biggest stories from 2021, including the government's approach to decriminalization. Canada continues to struggle with the opioid crisis and illicit drug use, an issue worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic when access to supports were limited. Okay, were access to supports limited, or were you just giving everybody a blank check to get high?
Yeah.
Trudeau said, like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Trudeau told City News the federal government is looking at where to do that, if to do that, and how to do that in partnership with provinces. It's not going to be the federal government doing something without making sure that there are supports on the ground in municipalities and in the provinces, explained Trudeau. British Columbia became the first province to ask for the decriminalization of hard drugs last month. The province saw more than 1,200 people die of illicit drugs poisoning between January and July 2021, a 28% jump over the same period in 2020. Now, producer AD, I'm not sure if you have this stat on hand, but 28% jump. So that's about 2,200 people that died of illicit drug use in BC over the course of the pandemic. Now, how many people died of the flu? Can we say that on this side of the paywall? I'm not sure if
he's saying, but that is important to touch on. So it's all right to talk about how the lockdowns negatively impact people when it comes to pushing something that furthers the liberal agenda, but yet they still continue to push for further restrictions. So what is it like? Because we know, like, without even having to Google it, we know that overdoses, domestic violence, mental health issues have completely exploded during the pandemic. Yet he pretends to care, and we're still pushing for further restrictions, which is something we'll talk about later. I don't know. I don't get it.
It's just, do as I say, not as I do. It's something that we see quite consistently, not only through our Liberal Party, but it just seems to be a left-leaning mindset. Stoke up vitriol, get votes.
Yeah.
I don't think we will see any acknowledgement of the harm that's been caused through obviously mental illness, suicide, drug abuse, domestic abuse, etc. Maybe until long after this administration and this season of life that we're in is a few seasons removed, because once you start opening up those conversations, you're accountable to those conversations, and there's been a lot of innocent lives that have been lost outside of the disease that we're currently facing as a global community.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, Nat. I'm not sure if decriminalizing drugs. What does that mean exactly? We start handing out tickets, because if we look at like for example, what happened with pot in British Columbia, because BC had quite a thriving gray market marijuana industry, which was also, it was actually, anyone who lived here knew that it was actually a good thing for our province, because it kept organized crime soft. People, it was something that everybody knew somebody that either grew or like whatever else, and it wasn't something that was so taboo as it was on the East Coast. And I think the reflection on how the communities felt about marijuana as you got outside of BC were a mirror of the police response. It was a harsh crime, so people thought it was really bad. It was Schedule A, whereas in BC, it wasn't really a harsh crime ever. So socially, it was kind of acceptable, and nobody really thought anything about it. And, there were thriving dispensaries, mostly owned by mom and pop shops, third generation growers. And then decriminalization happened, right? And so then they just started handing out these infraction tickets for people that were smoking pot in public or whatever else. But then that turned into a government dispensary model. And now we're seeing, the bureaucrats pumping out marijuana, making money every step of the way on it. So I'm wondering, is this decriminalization effort the first step to, heroin and methamphetamine stores on the corners? Because if that's the case, this is a terrible idea. Well, this is really bad.
Especially because it's our taxpayer dollars that are going to be funneled into these types of I guess, industries, right? Like, so I don't know, like, I don't want my money being funneled into that. Like, it's very clear to me that drugs are wrong. It's a very black and white issue, and people should have a say in where their taxpayer dollars are going when you have a huge moral objection to something like heroin being handed out on our street corners, you know?
Right.
With the government's approval.
I would love to see if there was a way that we could actually help with harm reduction, and like whether that be easier access to rehabilitation services, followed up with job placement services, et cetera. But if this decriminalization bill or effort just becomes a canary in the coal mine to start seeing the government peddling dope and normalizing the idea of being addicted to drugs or whatever else, like this is something that we should all be really concerned about. And obviously being in Canada, it's hard to find somebody who hasn't been directly or indirectly affected from opioid use or drug abuse or what have you. So if I'm getting it wrong, or if Nat's getting it wrong, please let us know in the comments what you guys think about this issue, because it is a sensitive topic, and it is in reality the true pandemic that Canada has been dealing with for the past 5+ years. It is nuanced. I don't think there is a unilateral approach to this, because it affects so many people, and it's not the same circumstance that leads everybody to the street, or even to be like a casual cocaine user or whatever else, because all of these things are all toxic in their own way, and often because it's stigmatized, people often feel that when they're addicted to drugs, they can't reach out for help or be open about it, because it's not celebrated in the same way that, say, like social anxiety or depression or schizophrenia, et cetera, is. So people usually suffer in silence, and they'll develop bad habits and suffer in silence and kind of like race to the bottom. And there isn't like the same type of sympathy for people who are drug users or what have you. So
for sure, it's associated with a lot more shame, I think. But do you have any advice that you would give to drug users?
Well, this is, I don't know if I'm qualified, but I would say there are people out there that love you. It's never too late. It's never too late to turn your life around, and sometimes it can take years, maybe decades, to get out of the hole that you're in, but you can get out of it. And we're fortunate enough to live in a country where there are some security nets to help you do that. And don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Absolutely.
That's all I could say. I mean, with my very unexpert opinion, but
wise words. I think that's
sage
advice. Sorry, I put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So I think as far as what's going on in Canada, that's about all that we can talk about without the tech oligarchy giving us the axe. So if you guys want to follow us to Rumble or Odyssey or Super U or rebelnews.com, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we'll be there. We'll be taking super chats. We'll be answering your questions, and we will be working through more of the outrageous news of the day.
Yeah, be sure to hop on over, because we have a really fun video to show you.
Sure do. Producer AD, how are we doing on that switch?